Exploring Joseph, A. Magnus with Craft Co. CEO Allie Anderson and Master Blender Nancy Fraley.
Welcome back to another episode of the Bourbon Lens with Jake. Scott is busy as always, so I'm holding it down today. And today I'm excited because we have someone that we've been trying to get on the podcast for a very, very long time. She's a very busy person, as well as someone who kind of makes that thing happen behind the scenes. So sit back and buckle into the latest episode of the Bourbon Lens. Hi, everybody. We're excited to talk about Joseph Magnus and Craft Co. today on our podcast. We have CEO Allie Anderson joining us, as well as Nancy the Nose Fraley coming live in action on this podcast. So, ladies, thank you for joining the podcast.
Oh, thanks for having us.
Yeah.
It's a real pleasure.
Well, I'm excited. We've been trying to track down Allie. We've over the last several years, and Nancy, you're busy, and we've exchanged messages many times as well. So I'm glad that, like a good plan, we needed Mo and the team from the PR team to come together and make this thing happen. So we love our PR teams. So Mo, thank you for setting this up. And I'm really excited to talk about one of the ultra premium brands out there. I think that's how it's classified for Joseph Magnus, as well as Murray Hill Club, as well as something I've never tried before, the Cigar blend. We're going to talk a little bit of all of that. But before we get into Nancy's story, because Nancy, you are going to tell us a lot and you're going to walk us through a little tasting. Allie, Craft Co.'s gone through a lot as well. You all have, really kind of set your roots down there in Michigan and continue to go out. So what's going on with the brand as you all kind of hit your stride here in 2025?
So much is going on. I mean, especially right now with where the industry is and the headlines are at, we're just thankful to be in Michigan. We all know like the consumer in Michigan is rabid for their own brands. Yep. So for us, I mean, 2025 is super exciting. Yeah, there's a lot of headlines and a lot swirling around the industry, but we're going to do what we've always done, which is make really great whiskey and sell it to the folks that enjoy drinking it with us.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a great perspective to have, and you deal with all the things, right? You're seeing the tariffs, the barrels, the all of it, right? And I think that, trips up a lot of people in our industry, like from the media side, and they're like, oh, there's just whiskey glut and, overproduction. But what I've seen, and so I'm interested in your perspective, is the consumer wants an elevated experience now. So they're okay with paying $100, $200, $300 for a bottle. That means they might have one or two sips pours a night versus having, their full bottle for a week, right? Some people drink a little more than others. And so what do you think about that as people scale up for the experience part of whiskey?
Mm-hmm. Oh, I mean, Jake, you said you had a couple things I really want to hit on. And one is the G word, right? The glut.
Yeah.
Like you read and you hear the doom and gloom. And I think, yeah, sure, sure, there is a glut. We have to acknowledge that. But what you also have to acknowledge is the second point, which you said, which is consumers want quality over quantity. And that I think transcends even, we like to slice and dice this by demographic and generation. And I think actually everybody wants quality over quantity, whether you're a boomer, an Xer, Z, whatever. There's plenty of whiskey to go around at a variety of price points. And the folks that really want to elevate, and maybe you're coming in as a Gen Z and you're buying that $29.99 bottle of whiskey, and you want to explore and you want to move through. I mean, that's one of the things that we're pretty passionate about is you start, you learn, we've got a price point for everybody and offering for, and then you get to Magnus, right? Yeah. And you really are able to appreciate, because of like the consumer education efforts that Nancy does, that we do, you're really able to appreciate what's in that bottle. So yeah, there's a ton of whiskey out there. There's a ton of really great whiskey out there. And it's going to get drank like it always does, right?
Hey, I struggle with words too, so I get that. And, yeah, as we as consumers, like until there's no allocation in America, right? Like I think we've not met the need for the consumer, right? If bottles are still allocated, it means that, in my mind, people can't get what they want all the time. And we think about like there's growth to the east of us, right? In different countries and things like that. Well, like I want to be able to get Cigar blend when I want it. If I want that elevated pour, I want to get, you know, Magnus when I want it. And I can go to my local liquor store, which is Liquor Barn here in Louisville, or Total Wine. And these are not always on the shelf, right? So, you know, there might be a glut on, you know, the big boys, but there's something about these craft products that are premium that you really want to be able to have and be, as a whiskey consumer myself, I want to be
Yeah.
able to consume these when I want them because they are that elevated experience.
Yeah, and you know, I think we're really protective of that too. We want consistency
Yeah.
all the time. And that's one of the things Nancy has been, I mean, passionate and adamant about since day one is that consistency in the bottle. So that's why we've got this incredible range of aged stocks, but we don't put an age statement on anything at Magnus. And that's for a really good reason. It's for consistency.
Yeah. For
Yeah.
sure. And that brings me to Magnus, right? We talked about this and there's a little story. I'm going to try to bob and weave because you all gave me a little heads up. So this the Joseph Magnus triple blend is kind of the, you know, the leader in the clubhouse, right? Like this is your leadoff hitter, right? This is what you all kind of went with. We're on batch 396. Maybe there's probably 400 at this point.
Yeah. Let me show you. I got batch, in fact, I was going to pour this in a second. I got batch 9.
Okay. So
Yeah, so I just happened to be what I pulled out of my closet today. But yeah, but
That's
it was,
4.
which one do you have, Nancy? 44?
34.
34. So hey, we got a little range to taste through, but
yeah.
you are wait about, oh my God, that sounds really good. I just got a whiff of that.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
Jeez.
that's what's crazy is
Yeah.
you've been putting out whiskey, you know, for 396 batches or more, right? I'm assuming this is one of the newer or latest batches.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's something fun coming for 400 and 500's not far behind it, right? Like that's the way this thing happens. So this is a triple finish, right? So this is finished in sherry and cognac, and then obviously the original bourbon barrel. So Nancy, you do a lot of the blending, all the blending. Walk us through how you create, you know, a blend for Magnus, because I'm sure it's different for each of the, you know, the products, because this is 100 proof triple cast. There's a lot of variety and different things you can play with.
Yeah, sure. So in talking about the blend for the triple cask, it'd probably be a good idea to kind of go from the very beginning, how this product even came about. And I got a special treat for you today. I pulled out from my lab a little bit of the original 1892 Magnus.
Whoa.
And I keep my proper lab sample that's in UV glass. I keep that downstairs. I never touch it. That way I've got 2 samples, and this one I pull out, you know, to show people. You know, if one breaks, at least I've got another
Gotta have
one.
a control, right?
Yeah. So it was off of this 1892 sample that I created the modern day triple cask. Well, what we found out when actually me and the late great Richard Wolf, you know, he was the former GM of Buffalo Trace. He was over at my house, and we were going through you know, the cask samples that we have and analyzing this 1892. And one thing we found that was really interesting was that it smelled and tasted like it had spent time in sherry butts, or maybe it had spent its whole maturation life in there. You know, we weren't quite sure. And you know, as a matter of fact, when maybe you could get, if I'm not correct on this, Sally, you can step in. But if I recall, when Joseph Magnus himself was selling off barrels and such, you know, once he saw the writing on the wall with prohibition, actually found that he was selling off sherry butts. So the whole thing behind wanting to use sherry in this was to replicate the original whiskey. And so I got the sherry part right. Now the cognac finish was something that is not historically accurate. You know, we didn't find any evidence of you know, cognac cask being used. But in order to replicate the original 1892 bottle, I kind of needed something was kind of missing, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So to my knowledge, we at Magnus we created the very first triple cask
Oh, cool.
bourbon out there. So that we've always kind of been about first and being on the vanguard of things, and so that is how that happened. And it also, interestingly enough, the original distillery, of course, was in Cincinnati, Ohio. Well, what is right down the Ohio River from Cincinnati?
Well, there's two
Something.
things. There's
Yes.
there's the big Seagram's plant, and then there's Louisville, Kentucky.
Yep, you nailed it.
You nailed it. Seagram's plant. So, which was, if I recall that, it started in 1857.
Yeah, I mean it's
So,
old for sure.
so we were pretty sure, given the aroma profile and such, there seemed to be a genetic connection between the old Magnus and
Mhm.
MGP. So that gave us, if you want to call it, historical permission
Mm,
to be to source
yeah,
from there, because that we had tried making bourbon in house, but we could never get as close to the original as we could with MGP.
yeah.
So that's the genesis story with that one.
I
And
I should say too, though, that we've got, gosh, probably 6, 7, 800 barrels that we distilled in DC that,
Mm,
we'll be doing something pretty cool with here in the future.
yeah,
And I think that'll be fun to talk about. Jake will give you a call and talk all about that when it happens. But I think, looking historically at that, that'll be a pretty exciting moment because we'll take that, we'll probably finish it in something cool. And it
yeah.
really fun, Nancy, to compare that, right?
oh,
What you've got right.
absolutely, yeah, that's going to be a really fun release and
Yeah.
such.
It's gonna
I
be.
think, and yeah.
Well, and you brought up an interesting point, like the DNA of a still, like the bacteria that is in that area, right? Even if a distillery, shuts down, then comes back online, which Seagram's did for a little bit, with all the different changes it had, you still are getting the same type of bacteria, the same type of interactions that you would want that are going to create the flavor profiles of yesteryear. But there could be something missing because column distillation has gotten so much better than what we had back in the 1800s. So I find that to be really interesting. So you found maybe a leather note or a deep grape type of note from a cognac that you needed to kind of
Mhm.
give it that dusty vibe that it was missing.
That's absolutely right. And as a matter of fact, the original 1892 Magnus, when Richard Wolff and I were analyzing it, we thought it tasted kind of, older, like in, maybe like 9, 10, 11, 12 years old.
Mm,
Well, if Joseph Magnus, the distillery in the original incarnation in Cincinnati opened in 1892, and all of a sudden they have this older release
hmm
that same year, they obviously didn't distill it themselves, and they had to source some older whiskey.
For
So
sure.
so to it, my mind, I'm pretty sure. I mean, I don't know for like 100% fact, but I bet anything that he was sourcing from that Seagram's plant. It just
Sure.
it
And it
makes
wasn't
so.
uncommon for them, right? That was very common,
Oh yeah,
Remus did the same thing, right?
Remus did it.
They learned from each other.
And then, I mean, you come down to Louisville and they were all sourcing, all the great proprietors of Louisville, they were sourcing barrels and making it their own. That's the story of Old Forester, right? And
right.
so it's really interesting that we have all these iconic brands, but still, like in today's age, a lot of the production comes out of 5, 6, 7 distilleries, right? Which I think sourcing gets a bad name, just like blending gets a bad name. That's how Scotch has made it as far as Scotch has, or Irish whiskey has made it as far as they have. And American whiskey wants to be that one day. They can sell a ton of world liquor. That's we're trying to do as well. So I think there's nothing wrong with it. And I think it's a rather cool story when you can connect the dots as a history buff. I find
Yeah.
that really interesting.
Yeah, well, as long as you're transparent about it, and I can't speak for other brands, but in our case, we actually did have, a pretty strong historical connection to it. And, with the cherry cask, it wasn't, just trying to do something to be different. We're trying to recreate something as close to, a turn of the century or the 19th century product as possible. So, when you taste the triple cast, you're really getting as close as you can using modern day, ingredients that we have on hand to a late 19th century product,
Yeah.
which I think is really cool.
Well, and that I feel like so many people like want to hunt dusty whiskey, right? Like that's the thing. And I was having this conversation. Is dusty whiskey better than modern whiskey? I think it's different, right? Because the ingredients are different, the barrels are different, the modernization, the technology is different. And I'm not saying that one's better than the other, but the amount of whiskey that we have now, like, far surpasses anything that we've had previously. And that shows that what we're doing is pretty damn cool and pretty good. So we gotta keep leaning into it. But also, when you can borrow history and figure out how something is created, and that's what's interesting to me. So you're taking an 1892 sample and trying to replicate that. Are are you looking at the different esters and profiles, and like, do you can do like monochromatic type of analyzation, or is this all nose and palate?
Well, we thought about that deeply, and Richard and I ended up just doing it with nose and palate. We did think about getting it sent. Actually, I did send a sample of the original to be sent, to have some gas chromatography run on it. But in the end, we just thought, it's probably more important for us just to you know, use our noses and our taste buds to try and replicate that as much as possible.
For sure.
Yeah.
Um,
And
and
Nancy, I think point two, one of the things we were always straight up about with consumer from the beginning was we were never trying to copy it exactly.
Yeah.
We knew we couldn't. Like, and to your point earlier, Jake, like those were different yeast strains, that was different terroir literally at the time. But what we were trying to do is use what Magnus did, those techniques, and what Nancy brought from the Armagnac and Brandy world, right? Of old world slow proofing, those kinds of techniques to a modern product and coming as close as possible as we
Mm.
could. And I think we did it. So
yeah, trying to celebrate the spirit of it, so to speak.
Yeah.
Pun
Yeah.
intended or no pun intended.
It works both ways. Sure. So
Exactly.
this whiskey is rather enjoyable. It's been quite a while since I visited my first Magnus bottle. I mean, I took a sip over the weekend, but this one seems more pronounced and the flavors seem bolder. Oxidation's a thing, right? We all know that as bottles sit open, things happen and change inside of them. But this is a bold whiskey. I mean, I get a lot of more of that roundedness of the sherry and the cognac in this one, where it's not as pronounced in the other one, and that's I think has to do with just some oxidation happening and the it mingling longer and all that fun stuff. And so when you try to recreate these, you're working with a lot of barrels. A lot of barrels are going to be different probably every time. You're probably working with variable age ranges to get the profile. So there's going to be batch variation, correct? There's going to similar yet different, right?
Yes,
And
absolutely.
so top of the funnel to the bottom of the funnel, how much do you start with to get to the bottom? Because I know
Well,
I've seen you taste whiskey. I've seen your little briefcase. Got rather little. You kind of you got a lot in that briefcase. So just curious, like, how many barrels does it take to figure out what a blend would look like?
so yeah, that's well. You could kind of think about and Allie, I don't know if you want to jump in here too, but because I've admittedly handed over a lot of the triple cask work to my head blender,
yeah.
Will Fabry, and So do you know how many he's using now?
Yeah, when you said that, Jake, I was like, you know what
I
popped up in
changed
my
a
head?
bit from
A truckload is 80 barrels.
Yeah.
We bring up 80 barrels at a time, and Will and the team unload all 80 barrels and they get to work.
Yeah.
They get to work, and then gosh, y'all like Zoom quite a bit, don't you, Nancy, with Will and Matt and the fellas?
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
go through what they like, what they don't, what they're going to save for certain batches. So yeah, they'll take those 80 barrels and divvy them up across the casks and pull out the ones for projects.
One thing we are looking for is when the barrels come from the MGP campus and come up to Michigan, is we want a good mix, but between different places in the rick house. So that way it's not like all bottom floor, all top. We definitely kind of want a range of different profiles coming in, and that way we can keep the consistency as much as possible. I mean,
For sure.
of course, with batch or by batching, there's always going to be some variation.
Yeah, no,
too,
100%.
but
And then do
it's
you all take the whiskey off the truck, then secondary macerate it, and then blend back from there?
yeah. So yeah, it's and I should say too that the majority of the finishing cask are always Oloroso.
Okay.
So the because the original Magnus kind of fit more of an Oloroso profile. The has just a little bit of PX in there and a little cognac, just to kind of
Yeah.
get it, kind of course corrective. I don't know if I answered your question on that one or
No,
not.
no, I got what you're putting down, right? It's got a
Yeah.
little bit of everything. And so, right, we have our backbone, right? We've built a brand and a reputation, and now we got something even a little bit more exclusive, which is the Murray Hill Club, right? So just kind of walking through this evolution. There's got to be a story behind this, and I should have Googled what Murray Hill Club was before this. But Allie, can you tell me a little bit what Murray Hill Club is and why this is historic
Yeah.
significance?
We think so. We didn't have the virtue of social media, of course, back then, but Murray Hill Club, there was the Murray Hill Club in New York, in Murray Hill. And we think it was very elevated at the time. And we think that Magnus modeled it after that. Like that was his Ritz-Carlton, right? That was his, like, when you think of luxury, his Tiffany, his LVMH, like that was a nice place. And so to denote to the consumer that this was a quality product, of course, I mean, if you go back and read some of his ads, I mean, they're just like so flowery and pretty cool, actually. So to tell the consumer that this is a quality product, he named it Murray Hill Club after Murray Hill, we think. But it was his best-selling brand ever. So, he was sold a lot in the South and Southeast. We still get emails from people like several times a year where they digging in their backyard and they found a bottle. Generally, it's purple because of the manganese in the bottle. When exposed to UV light, will turn it purple. So we still will get Murray Hill Club bottles that are turning up. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. So
that is pretty cool. And
Yeah.
this one elevates in proof a little bit, 103 proof, so it's going to be a little more oomph to it. And are using whatever kind of stocks you all have available? Does this take some of your, older stocks that you all have maybe created in Michigan? Like, what goes into this one, or is this an MGP type of blend as well?
Yeah, well, and I should probably talk about the in order to kind of answer or get to that question, to kind of talk about how this brand came about. So unlike the triple cask, I didn't have any kind of physical
Representation.
stamped a bottle hanging around. All I did have, and as Allie said, were these turn of the 19th century adverts that Murray, or excuse me, that Joseph Magnus had out there. And so, it would describe the Murray Hill Club brand as things like preferred by 9 out of 10 gentlemen, or, it's pure and mellow. And, it tones the tummy. Well, it doesn't tone my tummy. I can't say for anyone else. Probably my favorite was if If marriage is the fatal termination of a disease called love, then Murray Hill Club is the panacea to cure all of your marital, ailments or woes.
I always thought that would make an amazing cocktail napkin for Valentine's Day. Like you're in a bar, you're drinking Murray Hill Club, and you just see marriage.
That's
So brilliant.
this guy was ahead of his time. I mean,
He
he
really
should be
was.
living in 2025. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
he's a smooth talker.
So
As the kids say, he's got all the riz.
Yeah, he does. So much riz.
We could
All
go
we
off on a whole
need-
tangent about that. I'm not gonna go there.
So that's all that we had on it, and we knew that it was a blend, so we made the decision to make it a blended bourbon, but to use so it has just for say maybe every 18 bourbon cask it has maybe one or two light whiskey casks.
Okay.
So it's the majority of the blend is actually like real bourbon with just a little bit of light whiskey to kind of pay a nod to the historical product. But yeah, it was meant to kind of you know just be as close in spirit to what we think the original product was. I don't know if you want to add anything in there, Allie, or jump in, or any other thought from Murray Hill.
When we were developing this, I remember you saying that there were no true bourbon blends on the market at the time. And I remember that being kind of the genesis of why we wanted, like, we weren't really sure what it tasted like. We knew we wanted to be cutting edge with that next thing. We had triple cask. And then I love that this is the only product we make that isn't finished. So it truly does just elevate what blending is. And I think it's the best case example out there right now for what a true bourbon blend is, when it's, there's 18, 12, and 10-year-old whiskey bourbon in that product. It's honestly of everything we make, it's my favorite. Like, yes, there's Cigar, yes, there's special release. This is like your everyday solid, true expression of a bourbon blend. So it's pretty unique.
Well, I will say, if you like high corn content, like if you like that sweetness and that corn, this is your whiskey, right? Like that's what I get. I get a lot of the grain. I appreciate that, right? Like I want to taste what it's made out of. I know that the barrel's going to do the barrel's thing, and we can debate it if it's 50 or 90 or whatever percentage. The grain, if you have crap distillate going into a blend, it's going to be crap. This, you can tell the base distillate of this is good distillate, that it's good grain, and there's a lot of sweetness to this. And that light whiskey you're talking about, I can get that in here, like, because what light whiskey got a very specific taste, and you can get just enough, it rounds out the edges. I think it takes away from the sharpness of this as well. And I'm talking in generalities here because I don't want to get into like the tiny minutia, which we could. But that's a whole hour with Nancy on another podcast.
Oh, she can do it too. Trust me. I remember when we were talking to consumers about this, and they'd come into the tasting room, and so much of it, that was 10 years ago, right? They would ask what light whiskey is, or they would come to it with light whiskey. Why would you ruin it with that? And we went, just try, because this is where that chew, a little bit of that butteriness, the kernels, all of that is coming from that light whiskey. So it was a consumer education thing too at the time.
Yeah.
Probably still is to some extent, but.
I mean, I think light whiskey's having a moment right now. MGP's put out some really old light whiskey, and used cooperage, higher barrel entry proof. It's got some unique things to it that is not bourbon, but has the spirit of bourbon, right? Like I feel like going back to the spirit of Magnus, this has the spirit of elevating a whiskey, and if you can touch it enough, like, and just give it a wisp of those things, you're going to elevate the experience because it's going to give that roundedness to it.
Yeah.
It's amazing to me how just one or two barrels in a say 18, 19, 20 barrel blend, you know, just how much of the light whiskey really, what the influence is in it.
Yeah.
And, let me say a thing or two about the entry proofs on both the, just kind of stepping back for a moment,
Yeah.
also on the triple cask and the Murray Hill Club. The reason that we chose 100 proof for the triple cask and 103.5 for Murray Hill was the original stock that we had was I struggled to have barrels that were over 100 proof at that time.
Really?
So part of it had to, yeah, where the original stock had matured was in a very cool and damp environment. So that kind of set the tone. I couldn't go higher.
Yeah.
And so it just kind of became a thing. Well, when we eventually did get some higher proof, we just thought, what, we kind of like this, and it's kind of its thing now. So, you know,
Yeah.
that too was more recent history, of course, like in the past 10 years, but that's where how we arrived at those proofs was because the stock had really fallen pretty low. It was
Well,
old,
thank
but
God you did, because I am so tired of 150 proof bourbons.
Thank you for saying that.
amen.
Yes, Jake, preach, brother. Yes, yes,
I want whiskey under 110 proof most
yeah.
of the time.
That's why I call Murray Hill my day drinker. When
Yeah.
because
Yes.
it's just a rock and a twist all day long with that guy. And then you've got the triple cask is like your nice kind of dessert, maybe, or a little later.
I mean,
It's got,
you have that with your cheesecake and you'll be very happy.
yeah, your bread pudding. Holy,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
I-
And then when you have your extra nightcap, which is the cigar blend, right? Like when you have your stogie, you're outside with your campfire. This is the one that you pull out, and this is the darker label. We have
Yeah.
Armagnac, sherry, cognac. We got an elevated experience here, and we're gonna bring a little more proof because we're into the night. Probably the last drink you're gonna pour. It might blow out your palate a little bit, and thank God it's not Umbriana. Please, for the love of God, don't touch that.
we have no plans
Yeah,
to.
no, we're not. In fact, Will Fabry would probably poison my whiskey the next time I'm in the shop if I said the A word.
Yeah, you can say Armagnac all you want.
Armagnac all I want.
Yeah.
Not happening. So yeah, quote me on that.
Okay, good deal. I have it on good terms that Craft Co will not have Umbriana. Thank you. It's a very hard thing for people to do. I've tried many, and many have failed. But this I'm so excited about. The last time I saw this bottle, I was actually leaving to go fly somewhere, and I told myself, if I came back to the airport and it was sitting in the Louisville airport, I would buy it. Unfortunately, all 6 bottles had sold. But the only time I've ever seen this was in the Louisville airport.
I didn't even know it was there, to be honest.
I didn't either. Yeah.
So the Louisville airport will drop gems. I will tell you this. Always check the little store. I have my buddy bought a Michter's 20 there one year. You all actually, the Murray Hill and the Joseph Magnus are staples there, so they're always pretty much available. The markup is a little rough. I will say that, but other than that, it's there for sure. So good job on whoever your distributor is making that happen, because they have done a really good job of making sure that your all's product gets sold, and most people.
Shout out to Heidelberg. Yeah, shout out to Heidelberg. Yeah. Good deal.
But yeah, so I'm super excited about this. Because cigar blend could mean so many things to so many people. And Nancy, you enjoy the occasional smoke. So like when you think about creating something like this, what's an inspiration to you, right? Because I feel like I'm an unsophisticated cigar smoker. Like when you think of cigar blend, what does that mean? Like I feel like you know what I'm trying to get at here? Like there's something about that term that means a lot of different things to a lot of people. So as a blender, what does that mean to you?
So, this is a good opportunity for me to talk a little bit about the history of cigar blends, and I kind of need to do that
Yeah, for sure. Hey,
and
I love
be
your history. You keep going, girl. Do your thing.
His
woo,
our hands, so yeah.
I love history nerds. So
Hey,
yeah,
people know what
just
I sound like. They don't know what you sound like. We want you to be, you and Allie to be the star of the show here.
so my original production background is from the brandy world, and
Mhm.
I was trained by a 10th generation cognac maker that came to California in the early 1980s, and so my training is in that tradition. Well, about 35-40 years ago, in the cognac world, cigar blends started coming online, and it became a thing. My own mentor, Hubert Germain Robin, created his first cigar blend back in 1994, so 31 years ago.
Mm.
And so anyway, fast forward to 2016. I'm out on my, I don't know if you can see my
Patio.
deck out
Yeah.
out over my shoulder. I've got a redwood deck that has redwood trees hanging over it, and I was smoking my pipe.
Nice.
I've been a pipe smoker for I think about 35 years. So I was having a pipe, and I was, I it was a beautiful spring evening. I had some of my classic favorites like William LaRue Weller and George T. Stagg, and it's not that they didn't stand up to a cigar. It's I mean, of course, they're like the pinnacle of great whiskeys, but there was something that I was looking for
Yeah.
in it, and I thought, well, I've been a vintage Armagnac collector for years,
Hmm.
so all of a sudden out come the I thought, what if I kind of played around and created a cigar blend bourbon,
Yeah.
and kind of as like a nod to my mentor, and that whole history in France. And so, out come pipettes late at night. I think I called our then the CEO.
Founders. Yeah.
Yeah,
Brad.
yeah. He was in Washington, D.C. I'm on the West Coast. I think I called him, it was 9 p.m. my time, and it was midnight his time.
Perfect
I said,
time for a phone
oh
call.
my God, you'll never believe what I just came up with this prototype for a cigar blend. Well, nobody in the United States,
Mm.
unless you were a cognac fan, had any idea what that even was.
Yeah.
So anyway, kind of getting back to why I did the triple cask finish. One thing is, well, we have a because with the triple cask, the regular Joseph Magnus bourbon, we kind of were on the vanguard of doing triple cask. I thought, well,
Keep
I'm
going.
a triple cask for this one too, but probably more importantly is that with the brandy cask, you get this, or the brandies that I like Armagnac,
Hmm.
often have this note. It's a very nutty kind of note,
Yeah.
and it comes from something we call rancio, which is cognate with the English word rancid. It doesn't technically mean rancid, but what it is, it's the oxidized esters of the fatty acids
Hmm.
that are in the brandy, the and that over time is well, that it comes from a heavy lees distillation, usually
Mm.
in a very that's put in a very humid cellar, and over time, you get these really nutty, tobacco-y, aromatic, tobacco kind of notes and such. So that was the note I wanted to replicate. So the when I think of a cigar blend, and I hear it referred to as batch these days, and I'm not real happy about that. It's a blend is the historical term, because it's blended to
Yeah.
do, I mean, it's not a blended bourbon, but it's blended to, do what it's supposed to do.
And
Uh,
blend gets a bad rap. Blending is a
yeah.
art and a science.
Art of science. Yeah.
Well, it is starting to get some appreciation out there now, I think, but the whole thing, but behind a cigar blend, it's not that you can't drink another whiskey with a cigar or a pipe. I mean, of course you can. You can, drink whatever you want with it. It's that it's specifically designed to be able to pair well
Understand.
with that.
Yeah.
And what you want are those that fat and the kind of the oxidized esters that you get from that. And you get that so easily from brandy cask.
For sure. Well, and that's the one thing that I will say about this. We were talking about this last night. We were doing tequila finishes, but it's like
Mm.
understanding the base spirit, right? Like you have to go and be willing to try a cordial after dinner at a restaurant to get that Armagnac experience. Or, Raj has made Armagnac a little more popular. So, trying that or trying a cognac that's not Louis the 15th, or understanding PX versus Oloroso. And that makes you a better consumer of these high-end products when they are finished. Uh, Now, I'm well on my journey to make that happen. I think it's really cool when you can try the base distillate of whatever that thing is. I've
Mhm.
tried enough Armagnacs at this point, and I'm like, oh, I appreciate Armagnac. Um,
Yeah.
I need to try more cognacs. I need to try more sherries. It's not because I don't want to. It's just like, man, at the end of the night, I kind of just want to drink what I want to drink versus like I need to train my palate.
Yeah.
But the only way you're going to get better at this and understand and appreciate what people like you do and what Craft Co's creating is to go and try what the base thing is, because that is going to make you a better consumer of what you're actually sipping on.
I would also say too, and this is going to sound a little silly, but like stick your head in a spice drawer. Like
Yeah,
walk down the
100%.
aisles,
Well
unscrew
said.
the caps, just because, I think we get so removed from what does fennel seed actually smell like?
Go and spend your $500 at Stave and Thief and grab
Yes.
your Stave and Thief Society. Go pass your test. I got a 98. Scott got a 100. I always
Woo!
like to remind him that he did better than me. But I mean, honestly, when I go to like do a review of something, I will go and I will smell all of these things. There's
Yeah.
17, there's 33 things, and I'll just go and just take a quick whiff of
Mhm.
each of them just to get my nose right. Some are congeners, some are, actual flavors. And, Flavor Man does a really great job. So shout out to Stave and Thief Society, because this is probably one of the coolest gifts I've gotten. I've got to try a lot of expensive whiskey, and thank you for everyone for allowing me to do that. But this allows me to be a better whiskey professional media member because I can pick up different flavors and profiles. And so that, or Knows Your Bourbon, if you don't have $500 to spend, the Knows Your Bourbon kit's $25 on Amazon.
Dude, like I'll probably get in trouble for this, but my kids like to nose bourbon.
Oh, my son does too.
Right. And but they fools what
That's
they pick out, right? Because they don't have this whole lifetime of weird
for sure.
flavors that but they pick out the purest stuff. And so I think just it's inspiring to get back to that and just be like, wait, what does nutmeg actually smell like? Right.
Oh man.
Keeps the saw sharp.
Yeah. And the difference between like artificial, like which you could buy at Kroger or whatever, in like the tin can versus actually like when you shave some nutmeg down, right? There's a difference. Artificial, like I wouldn't say it's artificial, but pre-ground versus you're grinding yourself. There's different aromatics to that, different, places where it was the terroir of things are different. And so like food inspires my whiskey, right? And that's how I describe a lot of things. And Nancy, you can attest to this. I think the more experiences you give your palate, the better off you're going to be as a whiskey taster.
I 100% agree with that. And it's something I find too that if like what Allie was saying, go revisit your spice rack for example. But something you can do just throughout your day if it's to from the moment you wake up to be conscientious of
Mm,
what it is that you're smelling. Am I smelling the waking up to the smell of brewed coffee or scrambled eggs, or you go out your door and your neighbor's mowing their yard and you smell chlorophyll,
Yeah.
from cut grass, or just kind of being very very conscientious of, or as much as possible, you've got to live life and do other things, of course, but when some kind of aroma comes along like that, that's kind of intense, or I mean, I love the smell of cut grass personally.
Me too. Me too.
And
Oh,
gasoline. Anybody else for gasoline? No,
I like
just me?
gasoline. The
I
smell of Home Depot and Lowe's.
Yeah.
Walking in, the fresh lumber.
lumber.
Just love
Oh,
the smell of
God.
lumber.
That's a smell of lumber. If you've ever been to a cooperage before, like the smell of wood burning or toasting
Yeah.
is just beautiful. But what? However, you can just go through your day, your normal life, and just be cognizant of certain aromas that pop up. They might not always be pleasant, but that's okay. You're training your brain to be more aware of these things. And
100%. You taste with your nose, right? We talk about it all the time, right? And my favorite story to tell is there was a decanter series, old Fitz 9 year. When I opened it up, it smelled like a Toyota motor manufacturer. That was- I had gone to that place many of times. My colleague who started the podcast with us, he was like, "Man, this smells like industrial shop."
Yeah.
And we rode that thing out for 6 months and we shat on that whiskey, like not publicly, but we shat on it.
Yeah.
And then like oxidation happened and then it became one of the best bourbons I've ever had. And it's just crazy what, you got to open your bottles. Like
Yeah.
you got to let them interact because that's what they're made for. Drink them, enjoy them, create a relationship. And we've had a running joke about that tasting note forever because we smelled it first and then we tasted it and we're like, this is what the brake shop tasted like. And so
love that.
it's wild, but
Yeah.
after a while it went away and you enjoy it. And I think that's the most fun thing I can say about, with these. I know that these three whiskeys are going to be shared. I already have a plan. These are going to be at Kentucky Bourbon Festival with me,
Ooh, yes.
the
All
guys.
right. Love it.
So we have a house of 13 people. They like to smoke cigars. We're going to have these. These will be our whiskey cigar night drinks. And so like
Send
I
me
have a plan.
pictures, Jake. Send me
Oh,
pictures. That
for
sounds
Yeah.
sure.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah,
I
so
love that
these have a
shake.
purpose. So
Yeah.
thank you for sending. They have a purpose now because I got to try them and I think they will be perfect. And the guys will, and gals, we have a couple gals down with us that will really enjoy this. And so what I want to say is thank you to you all for creating experiences for us, right? I don't think as, I hate this term, influencer, media, whatever you want to call me, we don't appreciate the brands enough. And so I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to spend an hour with you all and to try these products because you all are putting your heart and soul into these things. And I've really enjoyed this conversation. And I believe everyone that's listening will enjoy this conversation. So thank you for spending a moment with us and sharing these three whiskeys with us.
Thank you for having us. And let me ask you a quick question. Which batch of cigar blend do you have?
I have batch 250.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Halfway to 500.
Well, yeah, we're into the 400s now.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
yeah. So we're actually, I think today, 487 to, or
Yeah.
we have at 9 that are getting bottled right now. But
This is delightful.
I just quickly wanted to say one thing. I know that not everyone is a cigar fan or a pipe fan, but with what I find with cigar blend, if you're not into that, like a nice dark piece of chocolate,
Oh, I can
or
100% see that.
like some grilled fig with maybe some blue cheese or something in there, wrapped around bacon, or there are other things that pair very
Making me
well.
hungry now.
That's
But one of my favorite things in the summer is bruleed fruit, right? So
That's
little cut peach or fig, and then throw a little bit of sugar, and then just flame the crap out of it. It's so good. It's a dessert. I mean, it really is.
Well, cigar blend goes very well with that kind of thing. You know, it's not just I mean, it's designed for a certain purpose, but it has, you know, many functions.
I mean, to your point earlier, Jake, like about being curious, right? About
Yeah.
flavors and stuff. I mean, that's why when we talk about the consumer wanting quality over quantity, it's because they're so savvy now and they're great eaters. They love to go out and try new flavors, and
For sure.
being more curious about that is why you're going to pay $100 for whiskey, because you're going to be able to peel back those layers and enjoy it even more. So
For sure.
Yeah.
In the words of Donkey, ogres are like onions. They have layers.
nice.
Yes. That
Right
was
there.
actually from my childhood. I remember Shrek when
That
it
is
first
old
came
school.
out. My kids have not appreciated Mike Myers' humor as much as I have. But
Yeah. So I married an axe murderer. Maybe try that one.
yeah, exactly. Maybe. Or just say, it's Johnny.
Johnny,
We'll
here's
really get
Johnny.
them.
You bet. Well,
Yeah.
you should come out and see us in Holland, Michigan.
So how about this? I actually have a finalist presentation for work in Holland. I'm actually going to be flying to Holland to do the presentation. So I will let Mo know the dates. I'm flying in on a Thursday
Okay.
and then leave on a Friday. So I'll make sure I fly in early enough
Yeah.
to be able to come to the distillery.
Okay, do that. We'll connect on dates because we're going to reopen our tasting room time this summer. So we're super, I mean, it's all crazy, but we're getting it done now. So
Well, you know, we're here for content. We're here to help you promote it.
we'll love to have you out.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for joining us today. Thank you everyone for listening to the episode of the Bourbon Lens, and we'll catch you next time. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thanks.